Hello and welcome to episode 1222 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, September 29th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. I don't know why I almost said November. What's going on, Justin?
It's the end of the season, baby. Or is it? Or is it? Is this season just going to continue to drag on?
In your case,
my blood pressure,
yes,
unreal.
Because you're having an insane sweat right now. So yes, you are. It feels interminable to you right now. I'm playing out the string, right? Like it's a different vibe for me right now. I'm sweating you and Greg, as I mentioned, and I'm even getting a little sweat from it, and it has no effect on me. It's just two of my friends really living and dying with everything. And it's been a big problem. And by the way, you put the H in, but you still misspelled it.
Did I?
Take out that A at the end. But anyway.
Oh, shit. I'm fucking tired.
Your sign today says fucked by casual weather, which, it's that's been a nightmare. That's one thing to have to deal with the players and the performances. It's quite another when Mother Nature puts her dumb little face into the mix. And I know that that's affected both you and Greg right now. He lost, and I'm sure many other people lost, a Tariq Skubal win. Almost certainly he was absolutely dealing. And then yesterday there was rain in the Marlins Mets. Now, that one might actually be fine because it's been suspended and it's going to be set to resume on 10/2.
On Monday.
What?
Yeah, that's what I mean. This is like the season is extended if the Marlins need that game, if they need it. So it comes down to the last few games of the year where if the and I don't know who has a tiebreaker between the Marlins.
Yeah, the tiebreakers are impossible to figure. So that could be a Tanner Scott save, which could be crazy. Will NFBC even count it? I don't know. Is that what you were going to ask?
No, I believe they will count it because it'll be part of a regular season. But are we sure that Tanner Scott will be the guy?
I don't know.
You've got your full collection of players.
Yeah.
Who could potentially come in.
Well, unless you need them Sunday.
Yeah.
What if they need him in a huge game on Sunday? Oh, my God. I didn't even know that was being pushed till then. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That it's... I'm not less. I haven't necessarily been screwed by weather so far. Actually, the weather's probably helped me, right? Because Sonny Gray didn't. Or wait, no, it wasn't Sonny Gray. It was Skubal, and there was someone else who didn't get wins because of weather.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any of those guys, so
that's good. That's good for you.
That's fine for me. For me, it's they are extending the season potentially another day. I have to wait another day, sweat out stuff for another day.
Oh my God.
Because of this.
That's nuts. I did not see that it was pushed till then. I knew it was set to resume. It was suspended. I didn't know it was going to be on October 2nd. And so then there's a chance that they don't even do that. Yeah. If they don't need it, right?
But we won't know until Sunday.
Absolutely, because there's just so much to figure out with these teams, so much going on with this NL wildcard situation right now. The Cubs are out, Marlins and Diamondbacks are in. The Reds are actually still alive, but barely, I believe. They need basically to win out and need help, I would imagine, type of deal. It's absolute madness, and it's wreaking havoc on fantasy. It's creating absolutely insane fantasy situations. What's your current status right now in the big leagues that you're leading in or chasing?
So my main event, I am in third place. I'm like half a point behind second, I think.
Okay.
And I'm like 2 points behind first, I believe. So I mean, it's like I said, that's gonna come down to the last day.
That's been flipping and flopping all over the place for the last several weeks there. Yeah, so
I'm a half point behind second, and I'm 2.5 points behind first. But it really comes down to, and I was on Mike the Mouth and Zach Waxman's podcast recently, which you don't need to go listen to them, so don't worry about it. If you want to pay for it, I mean, it was fun. I actually had a pretty good time, surprisingly enough.
I had a good time on it too. I was on it back at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. If you really want to listen to it and you don't want to pay for it because there is a subscription, just get in my DMs and I'll hook you up with a free link. And we were talking about it because Mike's in that league and Zach did some math on it. He goes, you have a really hard time moving up. And that's the truth. Like, I don't have a lot of upward mobility. What I need is all the other teams to kind of take points from each other
and come
in
down
order
to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm at least going to finish third, and I've got a good shot at finishing second, depending on how things finish. But to win it, I need some luck. I'm like the Reds. I need some help. I need.
You need to do your thing and get some help. What sort of pitching could have helped you? Because you're an unbalanced type of team. You're 67 hitting, 38 pitching. Is there anybody in your draft that you hate? Is there anybody on the list that we're going to talk about today? Unplanned segue there, because we're talking about top 100 flops pitching edition. Did you have anybody on that list there that failed you? Okay, so who did fail you though?
I didn't have any top 100 pitchers was the problem, or pretty close to it. I did not take. That was the league where I didn't take a starter until the 6th round.
Was Musgrove your guy there?
Yeah, Musgrove was my guy. And then like Lance Lynn might have been the
Lance Lynn experience. Yeah.
If I had, I hate to say it, but if I had taken Zach Gallen instead of like Cedric Mullins, this team is winning that league.
It's completely different makeup. Yeah. I mean, we can always do that at the end. It's tough to do that. It sucks when it's like one thing though. You're like one changed pick would have completely flipped everything. But you never know the whole butterfly effect, because
absolutely.
Somebody else doesn't have Gallen, and exactly. So who knows? But okay, so you're close there. Your auction.
I am 4 points up right now, and while that feels good to be 4 points up, like it's closer than it seems, right? Like you and I were talking prior to the start, and Matt Davis is trying to chase me down, and there are 2 guys behind me, like in strikeouts, who have like 4 or 5 starters left to go, and I've only got 2 starters left to go.
And so he has Tanner Scott. Would that save help him?
I know that and I can say this now on air because I'm sure he probably listens every once in a while. So Matt has had just an unreal pitching staff in this league. Unreal. Like, he has been leading every pitching category all year, and it hasn't been particularly close. Like, if you look at, like, he's got a 50 strikeout lead, a 5-win lead. His ERA is over 3 points better than the next person. His WHIP is over a full point better than the next person. He has dominated pitching.
Just god tier pitching.
Yeah, except for in saves. And the one place he could have really gained a lot of room was if he had just gone like 9 relievers for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Ooh, okay. Would there have been guys to get, or you're saying just pick up anybody, a random save?
Yeah, like,
because he doesn't need the volume of starters, like wins and whatnot are not helping him, and the ratios are clean. I got you.
Strikeout, he can't gain any room. He can't gain any room in strikeouts. He can't gain any room in wins. Like, and so this week he finally, like, he's using 3 or 4 relievers,
but perhaps a little too late.
But it might be too late. And one of those guys is Tanner Scott. So he could probably gain another point there. I could lose a couple points. Like, it's could be really, really close. I'm really hoping it doesn't come down to Monday. Because if I go into Monday and he is 1 save away from like tying me or passing me, oh man,
lose your mind.
I'm gonna lose my mind.
You're gonna be a big Mets fan that day at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Or just I'm going to be calling like the Marlins and being like, "Hey, why don't you put in Braxton Garrett?" Like, just
here's the thing: they're going to play right away. Maybe they would save Scott.
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess if they need it, though, no, you're going to put your best guy out if you need it.
Yeah.
So never mind. I was thinking like if they didn't really need it, but they wouldn't play it if they don't really need it. So by virtue of the fact that they're even playing it, they're probably going to put the best guy. Now, what you would be hoping for then is that Scott pitches Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Where they need him to go Saturday, Sunday to even force Monday.
Save situations.
So. Yeah, exactly. Like tie game type of deal to get that, keep them going. So, oh my God, so many machinations. And then finally, Tout.
Tout Wars, I think it was down 12 points at the beginning of the month. And I was like, I'm just gonna keep grinding. I don't think I can catch Brett Sayre. And
You
last night I
stormed the
caught him.
castle,
Last
baby.
night. Now a lot of it too is him coming down, right? He's come down from like
Mm-hmm.
122 points to 115 and a half, and I've gone up to 116. But like this is why you don't give up, even when a lead seems insurmountable. Just keep grinding because you just never know what can happen. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if I hold on to it, he may end up going back over, but at least it's a race. Like it's
Yes.
not. Last season, I think I finished second or third, but uh, Derek Van Riper like just ran away with the league at the end. Like there was just no there was no one really competing with him. But this year there is a real sweat, and I'm sure Brett feels the same way I do about my main in my auction about towers right now. Whereas I'm like just like I'm free rolling right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you stormed the castle. It'd be great if you can hold, but you didn't necessarily even expect to be here. So we'll see
Mhm.
how that goes. Okay. So again, we're pulling for you. Hopefully everything continues to go well. It's going to be a hell of a weekend. I know I'll be texting you crazily. I know on Sunday you're meeting up with a bunch of folks, including the main event leader right now, Brian
Mhm.
Slack. He currently holds he still has a lead. I'm trying to pull up exactly how many points that lead is, but my computer's being a piece of garbage. Speaking of my computer being a piece of garbage, I apologize for all the audio issues this year. I don't know why they happen. And,
Yeah.
somebody mentioned them again recently, and it's like, I have no idea. I use my mic all the time. I do a lot of stuff, stream, go on other shows and, radio spots here and there. I never get issues. It's always this podcast, and we do like record locally. I close my stuff. So it might be a StreamYard thing because I cannot figure it out for the life of me. And I'm sorry because I know, listen, if there's like really bad audio, I'm turning something off too. So I'm not offended by it. I get it. I hate that it's like that. I want to get to the bottom of it. But please keep letting me know. I might sound
Yeah.
frustrated when I respond to you. And the frustration is with it happening, not with somebody bringing it
Yeah.
up to me, because I want to know. I want to have a good experience for people and something that they can listen to. So we'll get to the bottom of it. We might end up switching over to Zoom to see if that fixes it. And then we would diagnose that it is indeed
Mhm.
StreamYard. But hopefully we're good right now. Justin can usually tell in
Yeah.
the episode too
We should
when
be
there's
good right
issues.
now.
So yeah,
Um,
hopefully everything's been good, and we're gonna get into some pictures here. Like I said, top 100
Brett,
flops.
Brian Slack has a 169-point lead right now.
Nice. I mean that
Nice.
that has to feel great, right? Like he would never say I've got it, but
No,
in his
it's
heart of hearts, he has to be feeling
I,
great.
someone Lucas Bieri showed me a screenshot of a league where he gained 8.5 points in a day.
Oh my goodness. And the
Like,
main event's even crazier because obviously
yeah,
it's 795 teams. Like, for example, the 15th place team yesterday gained 90.5.
yeah,
The 8th place team gained 75. So, there are big swings still to be had in the main event. And that's why somebody like Slack would never count his chickens before they hatch. But, he's at least getting a little basket to put the eggs in because he's
hmm
got to be feeling pretty excited about where things are right now. So we wish him the best of luck. And of course, my buddy Greg is in seventh right now, 1 point behind sixth, 6 points behind fifth, very much in the mix for as high as third at least, and maybe even second if his weekend goes extremely well. I mentioned that he's been burned by some of the casual weather. So hopefully
hmm
things hold there and the players get to decide it, not the stupid ass weather. But let's get into these pictures here and let's talk about some of these flops within the top 100. Again, as with the hitters, we're going to include guys that are injury based. And obviously that can be an excuse. That can be the reason, but we still need to assess where we're at on these guys for next year. So, we're not necessarily roasting a guy who got hurt and saying, oh, what a loser, but we need to decide, do we go back to the well with those guys? But let's start with a guy who wasn't injured and who just flopped, and his detractors got to be puffing their chest out a bit, and I was not one of them. I was very much a proponent of Sandy Alcantara, and the regression was severe. Surely I'm not surprised that he regressed off of a 2.28 ERA, 0.98 whip this year. Of course, I had him coming down from that, but not to 414, 121, which is where he went with a near doubling of his home run rate. That's been a big part of it, going from 0.6 to 1.1. The strikeouts, which already aren't a huge calling card for Alcantara, I thought maybe he could improve there because he does have nasty stuff. He comes down from 23 to 20%. The walk rate only goes up a little bit, so I wouldn't say that was it. It was more hits getting through, more homers doing damage, fewer strikeouts, and a really rough start too. All adds up to the season that we have here. He has been nowhere near the 27th player off the board this year. How do we feel about Sandy Alcantara next year? Now the price will come down. Will it come down enough?
I mean, he's completely off my board, at least early on, with the elbow issues, having a setback at the end of the season. He's not finishing the year on the mound. Yeah. I mean, he'll be a guy that I'll maybe entertain if the price is cheap enough in March, but until I see him pitching in spring training, there's no way I draft him. So, if any of you are like me and like those, October, November, December drafts, I would not touch him. Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to agree there. So much can change already when you're doing those sorts of drafts, and it can be fun, right? It's a fun market to play because it is so volatile, and you're going to look back on some of those drafts and laugh at yourself, and you're going to look at others and go, man, I really got an amazing discount on this guy. The market will change so much from the October, November drafts to the February, March ones. And Alcantara is a guy that, because he's not ending on the field, also coming off of a rough season, price is coming way down. I don't know if there's a cutoff for me where I would jump in at this point either. I think he's going to be a winter spring guy for me if I'm going to get back in. Let's say the news comes back fine. Elbow's okay. He's going to start spring training. All that's good. Where do we think Alcantara's price starts to land? Second rounder this year. Pretty consistently.
Yeah, I'm going to say
anywhere near that.
4th or 5th round, probably.
Oh, still that high.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be that high. I think that so much of that young pitching is going to come up that I would actually be surprised if he ends up being quite that high.
No, he still, even with missing the time that he missed with the elbow issues, he still does something that all those other guys don't do yet. Is throw innings. Like, he's got 184 innings this year after missing a big chunk of time.
It's true.
I don't think he's going to be a lot of people's SP1s, but if you are looking to pair a high upside guy with a stable stud, I think Alcantara is going to be a name that people kind of flock to because he can throw a ton of innings. Now, I'm not going to put him down for a ton of innings, so he won't be a guy I consider there because I just can't guarantee. I mean, you obviously can't guarantee anybody pitches that many innings, but a guy who's coming off an elbow issue like he is, I'm afraid I'm going to get 30 innings. Like I said, he's probably just going to be off my board completely. I'll have to rank him for our ranks that we put out there, but he's going to be jarringly low even if he is healthy for me.
Okay.
People are going to be like, what do you mean Sandy Alcantara is outside your top 50 starting pitchers? I'm like, I'm not taking the risk. That is telling you I am not taking the risk at all.
Yeah, that's full punt, which, I get it, especially if you're carrying those health concerns. There is definitely a price that I could get back in on with Sandy Alcantara. I don't know where it's going. I think he's a big wild card, right? Because he did have plenty of detractors. And I wonder how much his proponents are going to be daunted by this. So we'll have to see how it goes with Sandy Alcantara. Let's move on to our next guy who is pitching all year. He's been healthy. He's been fine. Aaron Nola went right after him at pick 28 as far as an average draft spot. And, the team's good again, but he hasn't been really. 4.46 ERA has been a problem. Now, everything else is in line. 194 innings with a 115 whip. That's not even bad. That's helping you. That's a good whip. But 1.5 home run rate. 1.5 homer per nine. 26% K rate is down from last year's 29%, but again, you're not bugging out about that. Even the jump from 4% to 6% walk rate, you're not really losing your head on that. It comes back to the homers, which has elevated the ERA. So you can't even blame it necessarily all on the defense, which is still crappy there. But, the long ball, they can't go in the stands and catch those. So even if you had 3 Brandon Marshes in the outfield, you can't really blame that on the defense completely. They do still play a role here. And I'm sure some of the extra hits, it's gone from 7.4 to 8.3 hits, 9 for Aaron Nola. I'm sure they've played a role there because it is a garbage defense. But I wonder, is this just another? I mean, he's done this throughout his career, right? Did the ups and downs of Aaron Nola have been kind of interesting to see when you go back and look at everything? He has these ERA spikes when the skills are still very much in line. Like just in 2021, he put up a 4.63 ERA with a 1.13 WHIP. He just did this, and then he bounced back at 3.25, 0.96. The thing of it is, the price never really drops that much. There'll be a slight discount off of the 2028 ADP for Aaron Nola, but people know better than to just quit him. So what do you think about Nola for next year? Will there be a dip worth buying? Are you going to take any discount you can get, or do you worry about this ERA volatility?
I mean, I do wonder if there's really going to be much of a dip, especially
there'll be some. He won't, with all the young pitching rising, he won't be picked 28. But it won't be crazy.
I think in the really early drafts, there's going to be a decent dip. But I think as people start to kind of look at the underlying numbers, because I think people just draft early on. Like, I don't think most people have not run any sort of projections. They're not they're feeling off of gut a lot of the time. And so I think there will probably be a fairly large dip to begin with, and then it'll start coming back up as people really start doing their homework for drafts.
He went 5th round in Meatball. If you can pull up the Tout Wars one, so we can reference some of that as we go too. So 5th round, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's the 69th pick. So pretty nice draft slot there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a 41 pick dip there for Nola. Do you think he lives around the 5th, or you're saying that this is the discount and then he'll slowly matriculate back up maybe into the 3rd round?
Well, here's the thing. So I think there's going to be the dip, and then I think there'll be this gradual kind of climb, and then he's going to sign a new contract. He's a free agent.
That's a great point.
Anytime guys are in the news, for a trade or for a signing, they get a boost.
Yep. And I'll go the other way on that. I'm not trying to sign him on a 6-year, $180 million deal, whatever he's going to get. He's going to get paid.
So
damn good pitcher.
For me, it would largely depend on where he ends up, right? I think the location for him, if he ends up back in Philadelphia, if he ends up in a really good pitcher's park, there are a lot of different things that could change his valuation for me. I think if he's going outside the top 5 rounds, I'm totally fine.
What if your boys get him? I got to ask, just because you guys are going to be in the market for studs again, and we'll see if you land any of them. And of course, pitching in San Francisco's amazing.
Yeah, I think I would be in. And
I might break my rule about drafting guys coming on that first year of a huge deal to get Nola in San Francisco. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So
would you want that, or would you as you're looking that up, would you want that, or would you rather they sign premier hitting?
I would rather them sign premier hitting, because hitting has been so difficult for the Giants to get.
Yeah. There's not much available though, so they might just go, best player available type of thing.
I think they're going to try to go all in on Ohtani, but I don't think that's going to work either. So, I think, to me, I just want them to do something, right? Just do something. I had this discussion with my wife and my brother-in-law after the Giants were eliminated the other night. And I said, the Giants have just lived in this state of perpetual mediocrity for the last few years, where I think 2021, they should have been rebuilding. And they surprisingly won 107 games out of nowhere. I think it caught them by surprise, right? And it put this in the situation where now they feel like, I don't know if they personally feel this way or if they feel like the fans feel this way, but they can't rebuild because they just won 107 games. And it's stuck them in this spot where they might sneak in the playoffs, they might not sneak in the playoffs, but they're not getting better because they're not allowing themselves to properly rebuild in the ways that the Braves did and the Dodgers did and the Padres did and the Orioles have done and the Mariners have done. Like they're not sucking intentionally to get better draft picks to, rehabilitate their farm. And they're paying for it. It's an old team with not a great farm system. So I think personally, if it was me, if I was running the Giants, I would be like, listen, we're going to suck for a few years. You guys won 3 championships in 5 years. Enjoy those for the next 5 years because...
But they've been in the hunt for the playoffs, though. I don't think you can just melt it down to the ground.
I think, but you should. I mean, and this is like, I think some people are like, well, this isn't fantasy related. This is absolutely fantasy related because if you play in a dynasty league, you should be doing this. You should take true stock of your team and go, is my team a competitor? Like, am I really competing for a championship? Not a playoff spot or not.
Yeah, but
like
you're not running
an
entertainment business while you're running your dynasty league team either.
People are going to show up either way, not show up. Who the ticket sales don't matter. We all know this. Like the money,
y'all draw well. Like I get that, but I mean, I don't know. Look, I have not been bought in on these last 2 teams of the Giants. I go on Gil Alexander's show throughout the season once a week, and he's a Giants guy, and we'll talk about who are the contenders. And you guys are always kind of up there early in the year. I'm like, I never buy in, and that's proven to be the right move. You're looking at back-to-back 500 type seasons, but they're kind of always in the mix. And I don't know. I think it's hard to just rip it to the studs in the spot that they're in. I think they painted themselves into a corner with all these old guys, and then just ripping it down to the studs would be a bad look.
If you were in the NL Central, I would agree with you. If you were in the AL Central, I'd agree with you.
Sure.
So you have the Dodgers, who are a mega team. You have the Padres, who are a mega team. You have the Diamondbacks, who look like they could be a mega team.
Love my baby Snakes.
At best, you're the 4th best team in this division. Like, do you want to fight for 3rd in the division every year and not get substantially better for the future? No, you should be carrying it down the studs.
You can't really tank like basketball, right? First off, it's not 1 of 5, so you're getting that 1 draft pick that changes everything. You can still build the team with draft picks that aren't at the tippy top.
And through the international market. I think the international market the Giants have failed at. But I think you should know what your identity is and then just commit to that identity. It's what Farhan did in LA that made the turnaround there so impressive. And the reason
But they never had to tear it down.
I mean, they were pretty bad for a few years, Like they weren't they obviously
they were still over 500. You're talking about 10, 11, and 12, 80, 82, and 86 wins. Yeah, I mean, well, 80 not. 80 and 82 is under 500, but obviously very barely. And then 82 and 79, 86 and 76. So right where your Giants are right now. They were living in that mediocrity zone, but still building. So maybe the building just needs to be better.
I mean, the building definitely needs to be better. This whole signing guys to 1 or 2 year deals, or signing guys who are in their 30s, why aren't guys like Luciano and Matos playing every day to see what you got them? Are these guys legit dudes? When you're signing guys like I like Mitch Haniger. I think Mitch Haniger wasn't necessarily a bad signing, but
I agree.
For the Giants, he's not part of the next great Giants team.
Sure.
Why? But
if they thought this 500 ball club was on the cusp, I'm not sure that they should have.
No,
but if they thought that, I mean, if they get Judge or Correa, and we know Correa turned out to actually be a good bullet dodged there, but they're thinking we get a superstar hitter. We add a few supplementary pieces. Boom, we're at 90, 92 wins. We're in the dance, and then we go from there type of deal. But I agree. I know we've gotten far afield here talking about Nola, but I just think if they went for somebody like that, I don't know. Maybe that's not the right move then. He'll be 31.
And I don't have necessarily a problem with that kind of move, right? Because you're locking him down for 6 years. You're going, hey, we may not be competitive for the next 2 years, but in 3 or 4 years, we might be really competitive, and we've got that piece. So the same way the Padres did that with Machado. Like they went, hey, we're not going to be competitive in your first year or two, but we're going to be really good here in a few years. And let's be honest, like there are, we see it in basketball more than we see it in baseball, but I think we see it in baseball too, some where getting one free agent entices other free agents to come there.
Absolutely. Jason Worth was that linchpin for the Nats. Remember when they signed him and we're like, why are they signing Jason Worth? Because it's signified. And go back to my Tigers, back when they signed Pudge and then Maglio, it was a sign, hey, we're Detroit. Okay. Let's not get too crazy here. But anyway, Aaron Nola, I think he's going to be an interesting guy as far as like if there's a price dip, I think there's a world where I'm certainly buying it. And even if it isn't too much, I just don't think he'll be second round again. So I'll gladly take the discount.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty much no matter where he goes.
The Alex
I'm
Rios
open to
pitching.
it. Oh, that's a good comp there. You talk about a guy who was up and down. The core skills always seem to kind of be there. But he was up, down, up, down. And we'll see on the contract too, because like I said, I don't love signing guys first year and a big deal. But if he stays with Philly, I would have no problems just going ahead and getting him. Shane McClanahan. This is one of the injury ones, of course, that is a washout there. But another main reason to still talk about him is because it's not new with injuries, right? And this was supposed to be his full-on complete ace season. Last year was an ace season, don't get me wrong. 2.54 ERA, 0.93 whip, and 166 innings. So he qualified for the ERA title and everything. To me, that's, full season, ace level. But this year was supposed to be the next level, which maybe similar ratios, even if they go up a little bit, but like 190 innings, maybe even 200. He did well when he pitched, but it was only 115 innings, 3.29 ERA, 1.18 whip, 11-2 record on that great Rays team, especially the way they started off. He was getting wins left and right. I think he was getting wins on days he wasn't even pitching. They were winning so often.
Yeah.
But it was great. But now here we are. Injury. His season's over. He's on the 60-day IL. Where do we currently stand with Shane McClanahan?
I mean, I don't know why we're talking about it. He's getting Tommy John.
I know, but well, I guess he didn't get it early enough to.
Yeah, and even if he did, like I wouldn't be in on it. Like,
no, I know, but never mind. It was way too late to be a factor for next year. Okay, so let's spin a dynasty then. Let's not worry about redraft.
I would totally absolutely buy on dynasty. Like if you are a rebuilding team, you should be going to the Jacob deGrom owner. You should be going to the Shane McClanahan owner.
Wait. Should you be going to the Jacob deGrom?
Absolutely.
You're still buying?
Absolutely. Why not?
Because as often as you would rip on, for example, Corey Seager for his injury issues.
But we assume that this corrective surgery will create
a window.
Yeah. And I mean, yes, he's going to be 36 by the time deGrom comes back.
Sure.
But he's a unicorn. He's not like a normal 36-year-old. Like
that's fair.
Like especially if you can get a good price, because he's not going to be back till 2025. And of course I would buy in on. I buy in on all the elite guys. I buy in on almost all the guys who are getting Tommy John if I'm not competing in 2024. So for instance, my 3-sport league, I'm not competing in 2024. Not because my baseball team isn't good, but because my football team sucks. And so, like I'm going to send out trades for all of the TJ guys and go, you know what? Even if my hit rate is 60%, if I get 5, TJ returnee studs for 2025, I might have 3 aces for the price of 1 or price of 2.
Exactly, because the prices will be lower, and with McClanahan and deGrom specifically, they're going to have that extended period of recovery, right? Because my timeline on McClanahan was way off. I don't know why I didn't realize he had his TJ in freaking August. So he's 100% out next year. And deGrom's was relatively late too, though not quite as late. I can see buying them. You've always been good about showing that patience in dynasty leagues and looking way forward.
Well, the truth of the matter is I haven't. And I've destroyed dynasty leagues.
Oh, I thought you've always been like, I will buy these guys and wait.
No, I have been And I'm still the like flags fly forever guy. Like
Yeah.
I have no problem going all in, selling my future for a championship because for like that 3-sport dynasty league that I just referenced, like I won the first year. Now the last 2 years I have sucked, but I will never let anyone forget that I won the first year.
Of course.
And so like I have no problem like sacrificing my future for now. I think that's what you should do. But again, going back to what we were talking about with like the Giants, you need to know what your identity is, right? If your team is not good enough to really win a championship, then you should be doing everything it takes to making your team better for the future. And so like I've been in a dynasty league for like a decade or something like that, and I've never won it, but I tried to buy too early and it set me back, right? So
Man, that's tough.
And I'm getting close to being back to being competitive. Yeah, Henry's in that dynasty league, and he's saying he can confirm he will not let us forget it. Like you've got to, when it comes to dynasty, you really have to know what your team is. And be willing to commit. Like I think one of the big mistakes people make is they maybe get off to a hot start and they go, "Oh, now is the time." Well, nothing's changed in the last month. So if you came into the season thinking you were still a year or two away, you're probably still a year or two away. Don't sell the farm
for a couple hot samples.
Because Eloy hit 7 home runs because Eloy's going back on the IL.
Okay, relax with all that. All right, so anyway, McClanahan, definitely a buy in Dynasty. Take the discount. Hopefully you find somebody that has him that is a contender, so they're going to be inclined to want to move him to get something to really help them next year. Obviously, don't give away too much because then you're counterbalancing what you're getting from him. But if you have some older guys that can help that team for next year and in the short term, and you get yourself a long-term Shane McClanahan, I still absolutely love him. There is the Tommy John honeymoon. Like right when they get back, you can feel pretty comfortable about how things are going to go with them for the next, multiple years, and he should be an absolute G. Cristian Javier, picked 39 this year. Baby Strider was a lot of the talk. I propagated some of that on my own. The idea was not that he was Strider, but that he could be. He could be that type of guy, and the idea was 2 amazing pitches, maybe smaller sample, maybe not exactly a guy who was always going, 7+ innings, but gives you your 5-6 on a great team and just dominates. Not so fast. It really came unraveled this year for Cristian Javier. Hindsight's 2015, obviously, but were there signs? Did we miss anything with him? And that the 4.67 ERA, 128 WHIP maybe should have been in view, or did he just fall? And this was a guy that we had every right to believe in with the skills that he had been showing, and then things came unraveled. I think the toughest part for me is that the strikeouts came so far down. He went from 33% to 23%. 10 percentage point dip for Cristian Javier is the huge deal here. 39th overall pick this year. Where did it go wrong with Cristian Javier, Justin?
I mean, it went wrong everywhere. Like, I mean, it just. But I think this is when you start talking about guys like Spencer Strider, like I think we need to stop looking for the next guy, right? And I think we'll
never do that.
Yeah, like
that.
I know but there may not be another. I mean, there will be another, Spencer Strider at some point, but it's so hard to predict, right? Like because what Spencer Strider does is not what every pitcher can do. Like you have to have those 2 elite pitches, and I don't know that. While I think they're very good pitches, I don't know that Javier's are elite in the same way.
Last year, at least.
But he's always had command issues, and there was also workload concerns. I mean, I think we should have, and not that we should have seen it coming. Like we shouldn't have been projecting like that this blow up was going to come. But I think we should have talked more about the range of outcomes in terms of a guy like Javier, because the ceiling was super high, and I think the ceiling is still super high. Like if he comes back being a stud next year, I'm not going to be surprised. But we got to now see what the floor is, and I don't even know if this necessarily is the complete floor.
I mean, Yeah. I mean, anyone can kind of completely fall off or whatever.
Mhm.
I get that point, but like this is pretty
Yeah.
flourish. It's a big fall for him. The 10-point dip in strikeout rate for Christian Javier is really the part that stands out to me as like, damn, that's really tough. That's probably the one thing I would have said wouldn't happen. You could have convinced me that the command and control was going to create enough problems that the homers and hits were going to go up, create some whip issues. I'm not sure you could have got me on board with his downside being a 10-point drop in strikeout
Yeah.
rate for Christian Javier. He did not go in the top 7 rounds of the meatball draft. That doesn't mean that his ADP won't be there. This is just one sample taken several weeks ago now. Where are we looking at Christian Javier for 2024?
Man, that's a really good question that I really don't have a good answer for yet.
Did he go in your draft?
I don't believe he did. And
How many rounds was that one? Was that also 7?
It was 6.
Okay, so then he almost assuredly would not go in a 6-round draft if he didn't go in the 7-rounder. I can't imagine he goes too much later than that, though. So if he's in the 8 to 10 round range for Christian Javier, is it a buyback?
I think
I'm gonna say yes for me while I wait for you to answer.
Yeah, I think it really depends in a large part about your roster construction. And I know that's kind of an answer people don't really like to hear. But what it does tell you is I don't think he's off my board at that point, right? Like I think he's in the conversation, but I think it really depends on when you get to that 8th, 9th, 10th round, like how many starting pitchers do you have and how stable are they? Like, do you have a workhorse type guy that you feel really good? Like, I don't think you should be pairing Spencer Strider because we saw, a floor from Spencer Strider this year in spite of the amazing strikeout numbers. Like he had pretty much a 4 ERA, like
3.81 ERA.
Yeah, like that hurts you in fantasy when your ace is giving you that kind of ERA. Because you're expecting those guys to help bring down the overall team ERA, not bust it up a little bit. So
that is not affecting his price, by the way.
It won't.
Third overall in this. And Strider did. Yeah.
And as he should. I think he absolutely should. Like, I'll take my L on Strider. I was completely out at the price last year, and I'll be completely in, next year. So
yeah, I'm definitely in. I liked him. So okay, Javier, 8 to 10 round area. We're guessing he could be even lower.
Yeah.
You're saying your team construction matters. I get that. If you've got some guys that have a better history of workload, because obviously you never know, but we go off of the data that we have. So if you got some guys that have put up a bunch of 180s in their history, maybe you have a Nola and a couple other guys like that have been doing it, you're more open to Javier. But if you're on some of the younger guys, some of the Seattle standouts or the Cleveland standouts, these rookies, you're leaning away from Javier. Is that what I understand?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, exactly.
That's totally fine. But there is going to be a nice discount off of pick 39 this year, and I will not be afraid to buy back in. Dylan Cease, pick 49. I mean, we can repeat a lot of the same stuff we just talked about here. I think they have kind of a similar makeup here, Cease and Javier, in terms of command and control issues, elite pitches, but maybe not a deep arsenal. He put up 172 innings, so that's 8 fewer than he had last year in the same amount of starts. ERA jumped from 2.20 to 4.66. WHIP jumped from 1.11 to 1.42. Now, he didn't have that same strikeout dip, though. And again, that's why I would have been so surprised. If Cease had a huge strikeout dip, too, it would have blown my mind because that's the one thing that he does so consistently. He's so nasty. It dropped a little bit from 30% to 27%. Swinging strike rate from 15 to 14. That stuff's still in line. But the hits went way up. The BABIP went crazy from 260 to 331. So super lucky last year, super unlucky this year. So is it going to kind of come in the middle? I think, I'm not saying it's the right thing. I guarantee the vast majority of people are just going to take the 2 years, get the average, and that's going to be the Cease projection, which for those wondering, that would be 3.39 ERA, 126 WHIP, 29% K rate in about 170 innings. Does that sound right for you on Cease?
I mean, this is another one I really don't know. It's so hard to figure out who he is because, I mean, even if you look at his month-by-month splits, like in September, 4 starts in September, he's got a 3.04 ERA with 31 strikeouts in 23 2/3
putting a little shine on things to end the season.
And people love those guys who finish strong.
Mm-hmm.
I Here's the thing, like I prefer to draft pitchers who are really good at pitching. Guys who aren't necessarily throwers. And while we all love stuff and we all love strikeouts, I think especially with the rule changes that allow more hits to fall, and power, like, not seemingly down, but like in terms of hurting pitchers, I'll probably stay away from Cease again.
Don't these guys become the aces though? Like, this is like some early career Max Scherzer type stuff, and guys like that. I remember watching Scherzer as a Tiger, always seeing more, right? Like, man, he just is not fulfilling his potential. This guy has more in the tank, and obviously he became one of the best pitchers of his generation, walk-in Hall of Famer now, but he's not the only one. It was very brief, so I'm not making a one-to-one comp here, but even Kershaw started off as a bit of a thrower. He had no idea where the ball was going for those first couple of years, and then became arguably the best pitcher of his generation. I think it's between him and Verlander, with Scherzer very much in that mix. And that was early in his career, whereas Cease is 28. I think it was like 22, 23 by the time Kershaw got going, but he's just crazy. But I think Cease is that kind of guy that, like, if he becomes an ace because he makes a few tweaks, I'm 0% surprised, because his foundation is so strong with that swing and miss.
I think the difference...
Go ahead.
I think the difference, though, is when Scherzer was still figuring out the command and control, we weren't paying fourth-round prices on him.
That's fair. I don't remember what his ADPs were, but yeah, I don't think that they got that high before he fully emerged.
I don't get me wrong, I'm okay paying for upside, but I want to see the skills already in place to reach that upside. They
were last year. 220, 111. Now those are results more than skills.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was a 10% walk rate that was still there, and we talked about this throughout the season with regards to Cease. It took a year, but I think Nick Pollock was kind of proven right with his concerns on Cease, right? So he had to eat it all last year about, like, oh, you were off Cease and look what happened. It's like, well, okay, he outlasted me for an entire year, but push come to shove, this is exactly the kind of concern that Nick had, this volatility from somebody like Cease. I'm not sure it's going to go away. But here's the thing, you're not paying fourth round anymore. He didn't go in the meatball. I doubt he went in your league.
No.
The strong finish is not going to push him up too much. If they reran the meatball draft, he might go in the 7th, and I doubt it, but he might. So Steele, Buehler, Bobby Miller, Joe Musgrove, and Zach Eflin were the 7th round starters. Would you think Cease is with any of them?
Maybe Bieber, because I won't be touching him either. But
Buehler, I didn't say Bieber.
Maybe with Buehler. Because
so you would at least consider him. Yeah. So let's say 7 to 10.
I doubt I consider.
Okay.
Obviously, if you are a believer in Cease, this will be the year to buy back in. Because he's going to be cheaper than, he'll probably go in the 8th, 9th rounds. Mm-hmm. And the upside, at least in strikeouts, is worth that.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm going to buy.
I'll run my numbers and I'll see where it puts him. But again, I think this is another roster construction issue, right?
Sure.
If I don't have a pretty steady stud at the top, and I've got a more volatile guy at the top, then there's no way I touch.
I'm going to need whip foundation more so than anything else if I'm going to take Cease. So, I keep referencing Nola, but he's just easy because he's on the brain right now, but he's a whip stabilizer. Mm-hmm. So even in a bad year like this year, the 115 whip. So
you start with a Nola, you start with a Brandon Woodruff, you start with these guys who are really, really stable products that give you innings on top of it too.
My boy Luis Castillo, Zach Gallen. If I'm getting a foundational ace like that really protects and even if my number 2 guy also brings that to the mix. If I go Luis Castillo, Max Fried, or Framber Valdez or Logan Webb.
I think Fried is a really good example of a guy you go, oh, well, I got the stability in Fried, but I don't get a ton of strikeouts. So now maybe I go for a guy, Cease. I go for a guy like, Javier. Because I need those strikeouts now. And those guys, at least Cease, we for sure know will get the strikeouts.
Yes. I feel like Javier can get them back, but yes, we know that's Cease's game. Going to miss bats. Got that nasty slider. Got that big heat. So yeah, I think I'm probably going to buy the dip here. I want to see where it goes, obviously, but we'll start getting drafts going that go deeper than 7 rounds very soon. I mean, I know the freaks probably already out there drafting them. And I say freaks lovingly. I will be one of those freaks, and I will start doing DCs pretty soon. And I'll be interested on Cease because the upside I do think is still rich. Now, I kind of want to see what also happens in Chicago because that place is a mess right now too, and I want to see what sort of things happen there. Chris Getz, I think, is taking over as GM. What sort of personnel flips do they do in the front office? What sort of personnel flips do they do with the team? Do they potentially move him? Do they start to tear things down and move a 28-year-old asset like that and try to get multiple prospects? Because you're still getting a haul if you trade Dylan Cease in a major league situation, without a doubt.
Because there's going to be a number of organizations go, we can fix this.
Absolutely. We can take him to the next level. So
it's almost impossible to make guys throw as hard as him, but people always think they can fix those guys.
Yes. If you have that foundation, you have nasty stuff foundation, taking them to the next level, a lot of teams believe they can do that.
On just a weird tangent, it's so interesting to me, the emergence of mediocre baseball players becoming general managers in baseball. And maybe I just didn't notice it before because that's
what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's just because we know the players now. Like these are guys we watched growing up.
Yeah, if you played fantasy baseball 10 years ago, Chris Getz was like that guy that you might draft in AL only. Yeah, yep. Chris Woodward, was a guy that I hope he finally, this is the year Chris Woodward.
Maybe I get double-digit steals from him and get a little bit of batting average. Yeah, Getz had
these guys in management or managerial positions. It's so funny to me.
It is. I do think it's our age more than anything else. I don't know that it's necessarily a new trend because it's just that we know all these guys now. We maybe didn't know the bit players from the 70s and 80s that were managing and front officing, which is not a word, but let's go with it, in the 90s and early 2000s. But now we know all these dudes, and we're like, okay.
Especially because I didn't even start following baseball.
You're new to baseball.
Until, early 2000s. So
all these. So you're very new to it. Yeah. All right, let's talk about this guy. Holy shit. Trigger warning on this one.
I'm going to tell you right now, I have no idea.
I don't either. It's Alek Manoah, folks. He went pick 62 on average. Obviously, he'll go nowhere near that. Does he go 300 picks later? Let's start there.
Yeah, I think he
362 or later.
Especially in the early drafts because,
we have no idea.
At least with Cease or Javier, we know that while the floor is ugly and disastrous, we know kind of where the floor is now.
They're major leaguers too, right?
Yeah,
that's a big key part.
If Alek Manoah doesn't throw a pitch in the majors next year, are you going to be surprised?
Not with how badly this went. I don't know how you could have overconfidence that he's going to return and everything's going to be great. Didn't he get sent back out and then not report?
Yeah. And didn't report, didn't throw. He didn't throw at all. Here's the thing, and I'm not making light of anything like that. This, because obviously I work in the mental health field for my day job, but this screams some sort of off the field, either mental health, addiction issue, something going on off the field that we're not privy to.
Yeah. And it's none of our business.
Yeah, and it's none of our business. But you hope that a guy like that, who's really fun to watch, gets whatever he's looking for, right?
Yep.
But there is no world, and part of it is I had a lot of Alek Manoah this year. He single-handedly shot a few of my teams.
He burned you. That was your dude.
He was luckily for me, I just didn't end up with him in any of my really important leagues.
Mm-hmm.
But my Gladiator League, my TGFBI League, I can literally pinpoint. If I had just taken a 0, if I had
anyone else,
Walker Buehler this year instead of Manoah, I'd either be winning or in the hunt for winning those leagues. it's unreal to me.
587 ERA, 174 WHIP, and this is what I mean. Like, I know this is very much an extenuating circumstance, but like this is why we always have to be careful when we talk about who's stable, who's a lock to do whatever, because he was a lock workhorse, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're not putting down another 224 ERA and 099 WHIP, but you're like, give me 3.5 and a 115, and that's guaranteed, quote unquote.
And there are going to be people taking victory laps on Alek Manoah this year, like, because there were people in the industry, including really good friends of ours, who were like, "Oh, Manoah is going to like regress. He's going to regress. Like this could be really, really bad." Nobody saw any of this coming. Like, no. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Maybe you were on the regression, and the regression did hit pretty early on, but like nobody thought. Like, you thought even if he was bad, like even if he put up Dylan Cease type ERA numbers, you were getting 190 innings. Like,
oh, absolutely, probably 2 something, because he put 196 and 2/3 up last year. Look what Henry commented from y'all's Dynasty League.
In the aforementioned Dynasty League, I traded Luis Castillo away instead of Alek Manoah before the season. I thought Manoah was the better long-term asset. You were technically right.
Well, no,
that hurts though.
No, he was not technically right. He was not a little bit right.
Before the season, he was the better dynasty asset, is what I mean.
I disagree.
He was younger, and
I disagree. That's not just hindsight. Luis Castillo is my AL Cy Young pick, so I think I can confidently say that that's not hindsight for me. I don't think they were far, and I certainly did not have Alek Manoah evaporating. But I'm a big Luis Castillo guy. He's not going to win the AL Cy Young, but I don't know. It's hard to pick awards at the beginning of the year. And if you get a guy who's in the mix, I feel like you can be like, okay, wasn't a terrible pick there.
I got Zach Gallen. I picked Zach Gallen as my NL Cy Young.
That's looking very viable.
It's looking way better than my Cardinals in the World Series.
Oof. I mean, I put the Angels back in there. That's mostly wish casting 2 years in a row now that I keep going back to that. Well,
I had Cardinals, Blue Jays, and neither of those things are happening.
Who is going to win the NL Cy?
I think Gallen.
You mentioned
there's a lot of like push for Blake Snell
Strider.
Because he's just been so good.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that stretch. But I don't know how you lead the majors in walks and win the Cy Young. Like, I
don't know why those two things matter.
He's been so lucky. Like, it's just like, I know he's been really, really good, but I don't know. I think Gallen, especially with the Diamondbacks making the playoffs, I think Gallen should be the guy.
So then you don't vote for anybody that has like a really low BABIP in a given year?
I mean, I don't.
Isn't
vote
that
for
also super? I know,
vote, but
you don't.
Maybe I'm projecting because I picked Gallen to win at the beginning of the season.
Look, your guys in the mix. I think this one's really going to come down to the electorate too, because if it's a lot more stat oriented, forward thinking folks, do you think Strider might win it even though he has a 3.81 ERA because he has a 2.87?
I mean, I think he should definitely be in the conversation. Yeah, obviously.
I put him on my ballot, but I'm not voting him to win. I care about what happened. Luck and all, warts and all. So yeah, Blake's been lucky to strand all those runners. 87% strand rate is incredible. Will not project him to hold that in any way, shape, or form next year. He's walked a tightrope like crazy, but he's done it, and the results are there. And for me, that's where I'm at with awards. That's why, like, I don't care about the FIP and stuff. I know FIP still connotes skills and everything, but I don't care about what their ERA quote unquote should be. What was it? Warts and all, man, because it's a season award. You take the luck, positive and negative, and you go from there with it. Snell's right there for me. I like your Gallen pick for sure.
Does Strider still have another start? Because if he wins 20 games, he does. If he wins 20 games, I think you're going to see a lot of the olds be like, well, he won 20 games.
So what? Yeah, again, that comes back to the electorate.
And then you'll get people who are like, well, you look at the underlying metrics, and he was actually the best pitcher in baseball.
And he got 20 dubs, blah, 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 blah.
I don't know. For me, like, I
think they let him go for that, by the way, because they have everything locked up. But because they have the bye, I think they can let Strider go for it.
I mean, I think they could too. Like,
What can he
at least
lower?
let him go 5.
What can he lower his ERA to? Let's give him 7 shutty and see what that does. Because I don't think he's going to throw a CG. Oh, that wouldn't even lower the ERA.
No, I mean, this point, like,
I don't know. I thought 7 shutout innings might lower it. Hang on,
yeah,
I might have done the math wrong. I can't not lower it at all.
it's got to lower it some, but I can run.
Oh yeah, down to 367. So
but
from
even
381
that,
to 367. No, I know.
One of the guys that isn't getting any pub is actually leading the majors in WAR right now for pitchers. Is Zach Wheeler.
Yep.
Who should absolutely get some votes. Like, I think
but that's another like FIP case, because our FIP is based on, or our WAR is like heavily FIP based, because his ERA is 361. And again, like I care about what happened. And Blake's is 225, and that's just crazy low. Even Gallons at 349 is certainly not bad. What about Justin Steele at 306?
I was just about to say, I think Steele has a really good argument. It'll be a really interesting vote.
Yeah.
This isn't one of those years where I think there's one guy, especially in the National League, where you go, he has to be the dude. And if he doesn't get it, riots will break out.
Yeah.
This is a year where you have, I think there's 6 or 7 guys who have legitimate arguments to it. Like,
I agree.
Obviously,
in the American League, it's Cole walking away. I think he finally gets his.
Absolutely. I was in the Giants game the other day, and the Giants announcers, obviously they're biased, but they were making an argument for Logan Webb, who's
been excellent.
Yeah, leading the majors in innings and been excellent the entire time, including I think he's got 4 complete games this year or something like that. I don't agree with that. I don't think Logan Webb is the Cy Young. I think he should get down ballot votes, but I think
he's right there with all these guys. Why not? 325, 107 in the most innings. Better ERA than everyone else we mentioned besides Snell. 107 whip is excellent. I think he's got every bit of case. Again, I really think it comes down to the electorate. Old, new, forward-thinking, old head, wins-based type of people. We'll see where it goes, because if you talk about the old heads, 11-13 record for Webb, well, that's going to work against him. It shouldn't, but it will.
He is legitimately the new Matt Cain.
Like, absolutely, they even look similar.
They look.
It's
similar.
Just reincarnation.
It's unreal, because Matt Cain's not dead.
Matt Cain's not.
So
dead.
You would think it would be difficult to reincarnate someone who's not dead, but the Giants have done it.
They made him in a lab with Cain's DNA.
You know what? I think you're onto something.
I think it has to be, right?
And I mean, Logan Webb grew up in this area, so easily could have been like a Sacramento lab.
I've uncovered it. I've uncovered it here, folks. Let's stay out west. Let's go back to Blake Snell's teammate, Darvish. Pick 64. That did not turn out very well. Some injuries. Got a bone spur in his elbow, not pitching right now. 4.56 ERA, 130 whip. 25% K rate, 8% walk rate, 8%, 7.5%, 8% walk rate isn't bad, but it is a big jump from where he's been. He's been living in the 5-6% range the last 3 years. So that was actually a decent spike this year. Homers went up a bit for the 36-year-old. Going to be 37 next year with Darvish. Obviously not going to go in like the top 10 rounds, I don't think, especially as that big 37 under his age column is going to start to lower his price. Where are you standing with Darvish right now? Is he somebody that you're going to buy back in on at a discount?
He just signed a new 6-year contract. It's so ridiculous.
I can't believe that, by the way. Get your money. I'm all for players getting their money.
And the Padres are now saying like they're going to lower their payroll. Like, you could have avoided this payroll issue.
Why give him 6 years?
Giving a 6-year, $100 million contract to a 37-year-old. But
I love Darvish.
I
absolutely
do too,
love Darvish. But why did they do that?
Like, I don't understand how you don't, like, if you really want him back, like, you don't think he's
2 years.
Yeah,
team option.
3 years, fucking,
2 and a team.
million. Yeah,
overpay short term, but keep the term light. This is not rocket science here. I play OTP. I know how to be a GM.
Yeah, absolutely, you do.
Come on, though. Like that. I'm sorry. At the time, it was jaw-dropping, and it just looks sillier now that this is happening this year.
So Well, I know it's an elbow issue. It is a bone spur issue. It's not like a UCL tendon issue. So I think I'm a little bit more apt to buy low. And I think you're going to be able to buy lower than maybe
Agreed.
some of these other names, right? Like I think he's still going to go below Javier. I think he's going to go below Cease. And so
Oh
for
yeah,
me,
because the
I think,
age.
yeah, and the health history, right? Like,
Well, yeah,
oh,
yeah,
he's got an elbow issue, and he is had Tommy John before, and he's had other injury issues before. I think that's a perfect time to buy low on a guy like Darvish. And
yeah. I
so,
think so
yeah,
too. Where do you think he goes then? Are we talking teens rounds?
hmm yeah, I think 13, something like that, 12, 13, and
I
that would
can.
be if he's my fourth SB in round 12 or 13. Like I'm here for that.
Yeah, because a fully healthy Darvish, I think, is still a stud, an
Yeah,
absolute G. There's enough here in the skills, even in the down season, that I can be interested in, even at age 37. So, yeah, I think so too. That if that price starts to linger into the 13th to 15th round range, I don't see any reason not to take a shot on you, Darvish. So, we're in there. Let's go to Hunter Greene. Injuries were the big issue here. Pick 92, expected to be one of those big breakout type of guys, and he showed flashes of it for sure. I mean, imagine if they'd have had him all year. You got to think that Cincinnati's probably holding a playoff spot at this point. I will say, even at his current rates, 471 ERA, 139 whip, those don't knock your socks off. But if he had 157 innings instead of 107, I think even 50 more innings of that would have been useful to them, given because of how bad their pitching is and how much they had to dig into the reserves to supplement both he and Lodolo missing so much time. But
yeah,
that's not what happened. We only got 107 innings plus whatever he throws this weekend. If he even has another start left, I'm not entirely sure. 31% K rate, 10% walk, 1.6 homer 9 in one of the toughest parks to pitch in. That's not going anywhere, I don't think. What do you think of the 24-year-old Hunter Greene? There'll be a discount. I don't think it'll be sharp, though. I think he'll still go early 100s. What do you think?
yeah. I mean, I probably will be out on Hunter Green again. Like, I just don't like bad command guys, especially in a bad
In that
ballpark.
park? Yeah.
And like with a almost 50% fly ball rate, like it just like that is the Cristian Javier recipe, which means you could spike an amazing year. You could also spike a full year of this, and do you want that? I don't. So I,
Scary.
I I'd rather be a little bit more risk averse than a guy like Hunter Green. I think they're going to be guys going right around his area that are much more intriguing in terms of a safe floor. So I doubt I'll have Hunter Green on any teams.
I have a hard time getting there as well, just because I think that the downside is just so present in that ballpark. He has a
Yeah.
major home run issue that is not new to this year. It was persistent last year, and the park exacerbates it. I love the upside. I think he's somebody who can be dominant. I'm willing to lose on him, right? So if somebody takes him, they spike the big season, I tip my cap and I say, nice job there. You took the risk and it paid off. I'm not interested. Last one, Carlos Rodon, pure injury. Went pick 93 this year, but that dipped. If you use his full ADP, it's a bit higher. But as it was clear that
Mm-hmm.
injury was going to be a problem to start the season and whatnot, that's kind of where he landed. I did a poll from I think later March, so the last handful of main events there to get Carlos Rodon's ADP. Pitching now, finishing the season on the mound, which is something that you and I always talk about is a big deal for us. We want to see that guy's out there pitching. And he's pitching pretty well down the stretch here. My Tigers ripped him, which is kind of funny, although I think they have historically good success against him from back in his White Sox days. It's just one of those guys that, even as the players change with the Tigers, for some reason, he just can't get my boys out. But all in all, are we back in on Carlos Rodon after seeing what's been going on here down the stretch? Because it will be a discount. I guess the question is, what kind of discount?
Yeah, I think that is the real question. Is like, if I'm getting him in the fifth round, then I might be interested. If I'm
You
getting
think he
him,
even goes that high?
I think
Especially in the
so.
early drafts, I think no way.
And not in the early drafts. Yeah, I mean, I think I would be back in on him. Like, uh, he's finishing the year healthy. The skills are still fairly intact.
He didn't go in
And
the meatball.
wow, really? Okay,
Yeah.
maybe
Don't
maybe
forget now. they might have been drafting like right around that Tigers start. I'm not saying that directly influenced it, but like 3 2/3, 7 runs. Maybe they're looking like, this guy's still broken, and he was because it was early September, if I recall correctly, that they did the draft,
and he was. I mean, he was really bad for a stretch when he came back too. Like,
exactly,
and didn't look right either. So like, I don't know.
Unless I'm missing it, I don't think.
And FBC drafts are already open, people. You can go draft right now. There's ones filling up as we speak. I'm not going to yet.
Greg and I are going to do a DC. He texted me the other day, you want to do a DC? I'm like, absolutely. Right, well, are you kidding me?
Text me when you guys sign up. Let me know.
Okay. Yeah. You got to get in there. You got to get in there.
Compete against you and Greg. That'll be fun. So I'll throw it into the Discord for our listeners too.
That'd be great. So yeah, with Rodón then, if we're talking outside the top 100, it sounds like you're pretty in.
I think so. If he's outside the top 100, I think I am in. Yeah,
I think he will be in the fall and winter for sure. Now, he could be a definite riser, and I definitely see Rodón as somebody who, if he has a big spring, we're talking top 5 rounds for sure. Like, he'll be a big elevator once people have some certainty close to the season about him. But the winter drafts, I think that's where you buy. If you love Rodón, you buy your winter stock because that's where it's going to be cheapest for sure.
Yeah.
Unless he has a big playoff. Oh, wait.
That was me. That was me.
That was deserved. Suck at Yankee fans. Nothing against Rodón. That's purely a dig at Yankees fans. And I'm a Tigers fan, so my team isn't doing shit either. Whatever. But yeah, I think I can get back in here on Rodón with a discount, and I think the discount will be pretty nice. People be like, oh, you know what? I believed in the 2 big years. He's his same old guy, and I'm going to push off of him. No, I still think like he's still risky. He carries the risk 100%. But if there's that price point of like if it's like a 10th round, I'm doing that all day, even 8th to 10th area. Because again, this was a 7-round draft. He didn't go in this. So if he's available in that 8th to 9th round consistently in the winter, I can end up looking up and saying, man, I got like 4 shares of Carlos Rodón already. And I'm fine with it because he's my 4th pitcher, my 3rd or 4th starter. I can live with that, especially if I draft stability out front. If I'm going Gausman, B. Woody, one of those two with, I'll say it again, Nola, I'm feeling pretty strong. And then I'm putting a Rodón risk there to take that shot. So I'm pretty excited about where he could be.
Agreed.
All right. Those are the top 100 flops. Some of them we're leaning off of. Some of them we're going for in Dynasty, like McClanahan. And others we're just drafting at their regular old discount. And others we have to see what happens, right? Yeah, I did mention Nola a bunch, but again, I probably won't be drafting him in the winter drafts because I do want to know what happens with his contract situation. He could have a big playoff too, right? He could wash away this 4 ERA something grub by having a huge playoff and then get people excited that way. And then a playoff tax comes through, and then I'm definitely not paying the price. I want the discount if I'm going to do anything with Nola. So, all right, Justin, that's it for us in the regular season here. We will be doing like once a week during the playoffs and whatnot, talking more forward-looking stuff. Are you and Jason getting together? Are you going to be all gaming on Sunday?
Yeah, I got to leave early enough to go down and meet up with Toby and Brian Slack and Sammy Reed.
Nothing to talk about anyway, really, for you guys.
Yeah, there's no Fab. Thank God, no Fab. I don't know what I'm going to tell my wife to come out in my office.
I was going to say, how do you get out of hanging out Sunday night now?
Yeah,
Jen knows. I told her last week. It's the last one, and she knew this week. I was just on to talk to Greg. I was just a sounding board for him. I didn't even have $1 left. So, it'll be nice though. It'll be nice to not have Fab. Like I said, I am looking forward to the season. I can't wait for the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. I'm still fully in on baseball.
Are you going to do 100%?
I'm going to be in the postseason contest.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that on Monday.
That's a great idea. We'll start with that, and then we'll have another forward-looking thing. You got these Yankees on here on our sheet. Maybe we'll talk about the young Yankees and what they could be, because looking at that list of players, if a bunch of those guys hit, the Yankees are going to be excellent next year. So I took a jab at them earlier, but I will say the future could be bright if a couple players really start to click, and all of a sudden they're a juggernaut. I really do believe that.
I know that the Rays get a lot of talk for how unlucky it was their injury situation and stuff. But the Yankees, they were pretty unlucky too with all their injuries. So, they easily could be a team that's in the playoffs next year and competitive. if they just get better health outcomes, right?
And
Like,
we know that they're going to add players too, right? Whether it's via
absolutely.
trade or free
Mhm.
agency, they're going to bring in guys along with these youngsters that we'll talk about on Monday. So yeah, they could turn around quickly, and all of a sudden we're talking about a Yankees juggernaut. And in that division, because the Orioles aren't going anywhere, the Rays aren't going anywhere, the Jays and the Red Sox, they could have a really tough battle next year if those three teams are loaded for bear. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, Justin, have a great weekend. Good luck with everything. I'll be sweating with you, and hopefully on Monday we're talking about some titles for you.
Oh, God, please. No more casual weather.
No more casual weather. Take care.
Take it easy.